Ukraine is in the grip of a severe financial crisis, with over 30% of its GDP now funneled into defense due to the ongoing war with Russia. The war has devastated infrastructure, disrupted businesses, and upended daily life, pushing the country to the brink. Without significant external aid, Ukraine could run out of money by April 2026. The government is scrambling to secure resources to keep the nation afloat and maintain its defense. In this desperate context, the idea of using frozen Russian assets has emerged as a potential solution. These funds could offer Ukraine a vital financial lifeline, but accessing them is fraught with legal and political hurdles. The frozen Russian assets are a massive pool of money, held in European financial institutions as part of sanctions against Russia. Estimates suggest these assets could provide up to €165 billion in support for Ukraine. The package would draw from private EU banks and Belgium's Euroclear, with the bulk earmarked for Ukraine's defense and budget. For perspective, this sum dwarfs the entire UK defense budget. Unlocking these assets could dramatically shift the balance in Ukraine's favor. However, the process is anything but simple. Legal and political obstacles within the EU remain formidable. If Ukraine can access these frozen assets, the impact could be transformative. Over €100 billion would modernize Ukraine's military and strengthen its defenses. €50 billion would stabilize public finances and keep essential services running. Repaying the G7 loan would free up resources for humanitarian aid and rebuilding. This comprehensive support could change the course of the war and Ukraine's recovery. But all of this hinges on overcoming the legal and political barriers to releasing the funds. The EU's decision will be pivotal for Ukraine's future. The plan to use frozen Russian assets faces stiff resistance within the EU. Belgium, home to much of the money, fears legal retaliation from Russia and demands guarantees from other EU states. France and Luxembourg have also raised legal objections, with France refusing to use its share of Russian assets for Ukraine. These divisions make consensus difficult. An EU leaders' summit in December 2025 will be crucial for reaching an agreement. Unanimity is required, but national interests and legal interpretations differ sharply. The outcome will set a precedent for future conflicts. The stakes for Ukraine, and for Europe's unity, are enormous. The US has taken a different approach from Europe on the frozen Russian assets. The Trump administration has halted direct aid to Ukraine and is pressuring Europe, especially Belgium, not to release the funds directly. Instead, the US proposes a long-term investment fund involving Russia, focused on post-war reconstruction. This has caused friction with European leaders, who want immediate support for Ukraine's defense. The US is also pushing Ukraine toward a peace deal involving territorial concessions, an idea strongly opposed by Kyiv and its European allies. These differences are straining the transatlantic alliance. Ukraine's leaders insist they cannot cede territory to Russia as part of any peace deal. President Zelensky demands robust, legally binding security guarantees from the US and allies before considering any concessions. The government is determined to defend its sovereignty, even under intense international pressure. Access to the frozen Russian assets is seen as a lifeline, but negotiations are complex and fraught. Ukraine's stance highlights the broader stakes of the conflict. The country's resiliency is being tested, as never before. The debate over frozen Russian assets is exposing deep rifts between Europe and the US. Europe wants immediate financial support for Ukraine, while the US favors a long-term investment approach and a negotiated settlement. The US's push for territorial concessions has alarmed European leaders. These differences are reshaping the transatlantic relationship. The outcome will influence not just Ukraine, but the future of the alliance itself. The stakes for global stability are high. The fight over frozen Russian assets is a turning point in the Ukraine conflict. For Ukraine, these funds could mean survival and a chance to rebuild. For Europe, it's a test of unity and resolve in the face of aggression. The US's stance reflects shifting global power dynamics. How leaders handle this moment will set the tone for future crises. The world is watching to see if solidarity and justice can prevail. The outcome will shape the future of Ukraine and the international order.